It's gonna be a good one.
It's gonna be a good one.
Definitely a different type of process.
Cut down or freeze up.
Being a coach's son.
Jackson, of course, they keep retooling. One stolen base, a hit by pitch. Oh my goodness.
Welcome everybody to another episode of the Hitting Zone podcast. This is where we bring guests like this man to my left and we knock topics out of the park. It is the Hitting Zone. We hit. That's what we do. Or slap. I guess that's the new term for today's. Just things are slapping. I have no idea. I'm not hip. But anyways, I'm not hip, dude. Big shout out, Game 7 Baseball, game7baseball.com. I guess they start rolling fall either this weekend or next weekend. I'll have to ask Brian, is it this weekend? Game 7 starting? Next weekend? This weekend starting. Probably should have looked that up before I started talking about it, but that's show notes that I don't take. Perfect. Took a stab at that one and got it right. I'll take it. That happens. Prime Sports Midwest, big sponsors. They got 3 locations now: Fenton in the Valley, and out here in St. Charles County. So anywhere that you need to go that you want to try on some gear, they got places you can bat test. So if you're looking for bats, stuff like that, head over to Prime Sports Midwest. I'm excited about today's show. I got this man here to my left. I'm going to let him introduce himself to us. And this was going to be this is going to be, since hopefully you've tuned in, we have moved the date for the hitting camp that we were going to have Josh Cathcart, Andrew, and Shane Eames. We're moving that to December 13th. Mostly because we needed you to register just a little bit sooner so that we can make sure that we lock in bringing Josh up from Houston, Texas, which we brought up last week, Brad Lidge's homer, and he did not like that I brought that up. But
it's also scary to give us more time to put things together for this thing.
Yeah, we do want to make it the best that we can. I think we have some hired guns, man. Like, we got some really good hitting coaches, obviously yourself, and we're going to talk a little bit about kind of, your platform and where you're rolling at this year. But introduce our fans again. We've had you on one of the early episodes, but this time we have you in studio.
Yeah, the Zoom just wasn't going to do it for me this time around. I had to come in studio and check it all out. But yeah, Andrew Keck, obviously from here in St. Louis, played at Vianney High School, was on a state championship team there in 2018 that still to this day may have been, one of the best teams I've ever been on just from a talent standpoint. And then from there went down to SEMO, played there until 2022, had a great opportunity there with Coach Sawyers, went to 2 regionals, was just surrounded by a lot of good players, some current major leaguers. Dylan Dodd, who's a lefty slinger for the Atlanta Braves, was on that team. And there's a couple other guys that are kind of fighting their way through the minor leagues, which I think we may touch on here in a little bit. We could probably spend a few months here talking about it.
Yeah, so we've had one of them on here, and Justin Dearden has been on the show quite a few times.
Yep.
With us. He was part of that group. I think the COVID year that he was on pace to. I mean, he was leading the country in like homers, RBIs, average,
insane.
like something stupid.
2020 would have been his year for
yeah.
sure.
And I guess he's a little older than you because I think he was picked up by Houston.
Yep.
2020 COVID year, right?
Yeah.
Like
so
COVID.
we were on that 2020 team together, and then he signed in that free agent deal. With all the craziness.
Yeah.
So obviously, I didn't get to see the Durden show. I mean, I saw a glimpse of it, but. Just from even what the coaching staff down there had to say, like if he got going, it's pretty special.
Yeah, quiet assassin is how I always like to, my thoughts of who he is as a ball player. Doesn't talk much. He does talk, but when it was baseball time, it was straight baseball. But You had Wade Strauss on that team who was in the Cardinals organization. I think he's been released.
So he's released, but he's back coaching. He's coaching catching with the Lowe Peoria. So he's back with the staff now. He was released, and then basically they hired him on right away.
Is he going to try to? I know that you're friends with these guys, and so is he going to try again next year, or is he kind of come to the conclusion this is it?
Don't want to speak for him by any means, but I'm pretty sure like he's in love with the coaching side. I know the Cardinals love him, just from the human that he is. Also, obviously, he did a lot of the gritty work that most guys don't want to do in minor league baseball. So I think he talks stories about having Sonny Gray wanting him to catch his pin down in spring training this year, and so like not only he's an A1 dude, he gets it done on the coaching side as well. So I think that was
I
an
was
easy one for them to get.
I was a little shocked, but I think when you make trades and things happen, it's a business, right? We talked about this numerous
Yep.
times. We talked about it with you on the first when you were first on the show because you had to make that decision too because you were drafted by the Atlanta Braves, correct?
Yeah, Atlanta Braves in 2022 in the 10th round.
Was that the same year that Dodd got drafted, or was Dodd before that?
He was gone 1 year before that.
I got you.
Yeah, so we were kind of right behind each other.
I got you. So there's a little
There's
ties
there's a
there.
little pipeline with Southeast Missouri and Atlanta. If you go back and look, like it's a very common school for them to sometimes pick some of those late round picks in or senior picks. I don't know what's down there. It might just be in the water or something, running from Cape Girardeau to Atlanta. But yeah,
Yeah, it's not exactly south of it, but I mean it's kind of close. It's closer than St. Louis, obviously. 2 hours about, I guess. I wonder if it actually is closer. What do you have to do to get over there? Do you have to just drive straight south and then head east, or can you?
I think you go east first around Paducah and then go down through like Chattanooga.
Oh, gotcha.
And then you hit the tip of Georgia, and then you pretty much shoot right down in. I only know that because of driving from Rome, Georgia to St. Louis, which is where High A was at.
I got
So
you.
going through those Georgia mountains, Tennessee, and the Georgia mountains or something else.
I do like that. So I want to talk pro baseball though, specifically the big leagues, because right now I have to take social media right now and kind of set it aside for just various reasons on how fans treat professional athletes and the coaching staffs, the players, the management staff, front office, all of it. I know some of it should be allowed, right? Because we are connected to it. We're invested. I understand. So I don't think there's a problem with like giving a little bit of heat to kind of management. Mo's been a little tricky here in St. Louis because you've been a fan first. I mean, you
For
had to
sure.
be a fan first, and then you
Absolutely.
became the athlete that you were, but you were a fan first. And I think about our current situation in St. Louis. We're struggling. There's some things that we're struggling, but there's some big time excitement with these guys, and there's change coming. And for some reason, the best fans in baseball, and I am using that word very sarcastically, think that they're just can say whatever the heck they want. How do you feel as a fan, as a professional athlete, then as a coach, kind of because this is coming from a different view than me.
Right.
I've coached college athletics, never professionally, and obviously I coach young people, but I have a really hard time with some of the things that they're saying about guys like Ali and the base running mistakes, the infield fly thing that happened the other day, and there was just a bunch of things happening, and it got lost, and everybody out there in St. Louis Nation's like, the St. Louis Cardinals don't know what an infield fly is, and I guarantee they know what an infield fly is. For
Right.
whatever reason, they lost a bit of focus.
Yeah. I think truly it's almost, you have to almost look at it like a blessing and a curse. It's a blessing in a way that, it shows that the fan base here is invested and they care and they expect winning, which is something I think has fallen to the wayside a little bit across all, not just baseball, but youth sports in general, is like we don't prioritize winning as much as I think we should. Like it is a good thing to want to win and to want to be a winner. And that's not always going to happen. In fact, rarely it happens, not only in sports, but in life. But like that has to be an ultimate goal, especially in these team sports. And there's not too many sports out there that aren't team sports, even when it comes to golf or racing. Like those are all still team sports. There's 35 other people invested in it. So it's like, I think, but at the same time, like the average human, I don't think quite understands what these guys, both on the playing and the coaching and the front office staff, like what they truly go through. Like the expectations that are put on them, And this even trickles down into like the minor league level, whether they're actually true or not. Those guys are all still putting all of this on them. And I think, that's one of the biggest battles for these professional guys, not only the coaches, but the players, is like fighting through that. Like, right. Like that's the mental grind that they talk about. I tell it to our guys all the time. I'm like, we talk about the 90-10, right? 90% mental, 10% physical. And you can say this every day, but like we only really work on that 10% or that 90%, 10% of the time, And so it's like, I think it's, like I said, it's almost like a double-edged sword, because without it, we would be like, nobody would care. And who knows how long this could go on. And, I almost think about like in Atlanta when I was around in that time, and even, that being 2022, they had a really good team. They were coming off a World Series. Everything's very high. And you look at this team now, and they're probably going to miss the playoffs this year and have like back-to-back disappointing seasons. And it's like how quick, it just shows you how quick that can flip.
Yeah, that's interesting you bring the Atlanta Braves up, because, I bet you 2-3 years ago, our fans were like, we needed to sign these guys early, kind of like Atlanta did with Ozzie and these guys, instead of letting them go through the normal process of tenure and stuff like that. They tried to buy out
Michael Harris, they did
like
that too. Like there's a list of guys.
Yeah, and they're not succeeding.
Right.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I shouldn't say they're not succeeding. They're in professional sports. They got paid, but at the end of the day, they're having some down times. You never know what's nagging them on injuries and things like that. And it's like, I know that as a fan base, you typically, this is where I come up with everybody says the term homer, because only people care about what's going on in their city. And I look around baseball, and there's just, in general, teams have these ups and downs. The Texas Rangers win the World Series, don't make the playoffs the next year, but what's always interesting is the fan base will always, and I'm assuming this happens everywhere. I don't pay attention to Phillies fan base or the Yankees or the
Mets. I can only imagine it goes up from here.
I would imagine it's tough, right? But I don't know what they're saying down in Arizona, after just going to the World Series and then having the years that they've had with most of their talent still there. But I look at the Braves. I'm thinking Acuna's been injured. The pitching staff's not consistently healthy, and here we are just still hammering our front office. I mean, this stuff's brutal, and I think it's way more difficult than that. And I don't know how much development happens at the major league level, where a lot of our fans are saying that we don't develop athletes. I think the Cardinals still have some of the best developers in the minor league system, and what is happening at the big league system that is impacting this. Do you feel that a manager should be, and I'm talking about Ali, is responsible for the development of these athletes, or do you think it's the team of coaching staffs that's there, or how much impact does a manager have at this level?
Yeah, I mean, I think that talk about another double-edged sword. Like that's a tough one, because you expect these guys to come up when they get to the major league level. You expect them to be ready, right? Like that's why you have a player development system in place, is so that when these guys get up there, it's very fine-tuned. It's very perfecting your routine, your craft, right? And it's like, then we let you go out and play. But at the same token, like we're in a world now where players are getting thrown into major league lineups every day at the youngest that they ever have. You have 20, 21-year-olds playing out there with grown men. Like that, at times I'm just like, holy cow, like that guy's 20 years old and he's playing against 35-year-old grown men that look, like a whole different body type than them. And so like, I can understand where some of these guys, whether they're prepared or not, they come up and it's a very daunting, it's a very, like, holy cow, this is Major League Baseball. Like, well, welcome to it. And you don't have much time to sit back, relax, and check it out. Usually you're in the lineup that next night and you got 96 coming at you, high and tight, but it's still a strike, So you got fastballs at the bottom of the zone that look like they were going to go down below and they feel like they go up.
It's interesting because, the things as fans that we always see is like we always see these big leaguers throwing like these cool overlays. You never see a A-ball guy with a bunch of neat overlays unless it's somebody that's in the industry trying to coach these kids, and then they'll show their overlays. But, they're showing the best in the world. Right. And, I think sometimes we get carried away with thinking that who's going to be the next Juan Soto, Jackson Merrill. And I try to explain to people, like, they're trying to have guys like Walker want to be like Bobby Witt. That's a rare talent, right? And I still try to express to people, look at the ages. There's a very small percentage under 25 still in the big leagues out of 700 and something players, right?
Right.
And yes, some of them are in the top 50. Mm-hmm. But again, it's a very small amount of people that are under that developed age, because the 26 is when we talk about the brain and we talk about the body. And it was something that I loved about Tony La Russa, was that's what the athlete he wanted, was those guys that are 27 and older. Right. He didn't like youngsters. He always would trade his young talent for older talent. And, trading for Woody Williams, like, that's a John Lester move for me. Yep. Like, fans get been out of shape because we signed John Lester or Jose Quintana or whatever. But anyways, I brought that up because what I feel like is happening, and I could be completely wrong because I'm in this. I feel like youth sports has trickled in with this entitlement of saying whatever we want, or maybe it's social media. I don't know. Because in the 90s, the Cardinals were terrible. Like, people don't understand. In a 10-year period, they had 5 losing seasons. We've had 2, maybe going on 3 in 25 years. Right. We have 17,000 fans, and they want to blame management for that. I don't know how we can blame management when you're excited about bringing Walker up, when he made the, like, he's got to make it out of spring training. Well, he's not been good. Victor Scott, he's got to make it out of spring training. He's been great on defense, but he struggled offensively. You saw Nathan Church get called up. He is a heck of an outfielder, has had some problems. He barreled 5 baseballs, and all of a sudden he got out because he's in the big leagues. That's right. Not in the minor leagues. And now they're already saying the Church is bad because he's hitting 100. Right. Prito gets called up. He doesn't have a hit yet. Crooks gets hits his first hit is a bomb.
Bomb backside.
Yeah, and then the first thing they want to do the next day is Sonny Gray's on the bump and Paez is behind the dish. And they're complaining that why isn't Jimmy Crooks behind? I swear to you, I feel like it's the same concept that says it's the coach's fault in youth sports that my son is not this. Because all of they're doing is blaming Ali, and they're blaming Mozeliak, which Mo might have deserved some of this because of his personality. It's not the greatest, but is it truly management's fault for the players' on-field anxieties, performances? I mean, we're the 4th youngest team in baseball. And we're playing, in my opinion, above expectations. What we've done in the last 2 weeks has been awful to watch. Right. I get it, the base running and stuff like that. But is it fair? I could be wrong in saying this, but I feel like there's a little bit of youth sports entitlement going on into the big leagues right now because they feel like they pay something. And I don't think the reason why people go down there is because of crime. It costs a lot of money for the product that's not great compared to the 90s. I mean, your biggest show was Ron Gant. I don't know if you were probably just born in the 90s. So
I was just getting started.
So you might not know this stuff, but like in the 90s, we were bad. 70 win seasons, 60. Well, that was strike related years, but we were under 500 5 times in 10 years. And there was still 2+ million, seats. And I just think if you really want to support the athletes, you do what you can. Right. You want to be upset at management, tell them to move to Chesterfield or whatever you want. Yeah. But then you don't want them to move because they could. I don't think St. Louis Cardinals would ever move out of this city. That would be crazy to me. But
if you thought you had the fans going now,
I'm just like, dude.
Imagine when that press release would come
Holy
out.
Smokes. But, do you think that's fair, or am I being emotional because I'm in youth sports and I hear a lot of complaining and I feel like it's super similar.
And this kind of brings up a question in my mind that I've always wondered or had suspicions about is like, and this is through, let's call it through minor league or through major leagues, is, especially in 2025, this season, and maybe the past 15 to 20 before this, like, how much of the decision making is upper management making, and how much is the decision making coming from, in our case in St. Louis, Ali Marmol and Stubby Claps and John Jay and Descalso? Like, how much of where's the breakdown on that? Because I know, and as you work down in levels, it gets very diluted. And I think in my opinion, the more and more you work down, the more and more the managers kind of just become, yes sirs, or they're given a plan, the analytics are given out, and then hey, this is how we're going to play this. This is our lineup. This is the defensive. This is who's starting. I don't know. I wish I could had an answer for that, but I definitely know that just from living it in first person, like there is some of that stuff, inclusion, there's some of that going on. So at what point, like when do we know, how do we know who's making the decisions? And maybe that's the spot where our fans are frustrated, because how do we know who's making the decisions? Like when you said with Tony La Russa, it was very like you knew who was calling the shots, right? When he was in, he didn't want the young guys. Okay, that went to management. Boom, great. Like we make an adjustment. But nowadays, like who's making the calls? Like who is it? I don't know.
Yeah.
And so I think that's something too, like that, just another maybe on the fan side to look at, like who is responsible. Maybe that's where all the frustration comes, because we don't actually know, right? And then it's like, well, if there's no one to blame, if we can't find someone, well then it's got to be the players, because they're the ones we're watching. They're the ones that are failing in our eyes.
Yeah, I could see where a fan would be upset with somebody like Mo, because you get the vibe that he's probably in charge, or his team is in charge.
There might be a little paper that slides down the elevator every morning to Marmal's office door. I don't know.
I don't know that this year it happened, because of the way some of the things that you saw on the field I thought were pretty exciting. And then I looked at just different things throughout a year, and folks are starting to talk about Ali in the team, because the team is trying to protect him.
Right.
And he's put himself out there a few times saying, he thinks he handled the Tyler O'Neill situation, should have handled it a little bit differently, stuff like that. And you're seeing some of the humility of some of the decisions that he made. I guess that's the right word I want to use there, but he's made some mistakes.
Right.
And I think he's okay acknowledging those. I'm like, if the players love the guy, why would you want to fire him?
Yeah.
So that leads me kind of to the next question is, how much does a manager have influence on wins and losses in a game, in a season? Do you think that they have the ability to win a game, and do you think they have the ability to lose a game? I know it's two questions, so address the first one, which I think is much smaller than the second one, but how much impact does a manager have to winning a game? Because you set your starting lineup.
Right.
You could go out and set the best lineup you have and lose a baseball game. That's not the manager's fault, right? It's just the guy you face and stuff like that. So, but there's decisions that can be made, and you talked about analytics. So, how much do you think today's game versus before, eye test, feelings, gut, stuff like that, does a manager have impact on wins?
Yeah, I think I think once you throw that first pitch, it's very natural, and it's very like based on scouting reports and past decisions and the series, a game of, I don't know if the average fan understands how much actually goes into, hey, like running a 12-man bullpen and who's available that day. And, like we don't get all of that as just kind of the average or even honestly more advanced fan. Like you don't necessarily know all of the who's not feeling great today, who was supposed to pitch today but now is out, and it's like all those different on top of what's the other team doing, like who's hot in that lineup, who has taken O'Brien deep 3 of his past 10 at bats, right? Like there's so many little things, and that's obviously why we pay these guys to put in game plans and make those decisions. And so I do think, that the fourth, in my personal opinion, I think like anywhere from like the 4th, 5th, 6th to 7th inning is a majority of the time where a ball game is won or lost. Like obviously, yes, you're going to have your walk-offs and crazy plays like that, but like the decisions that are made, and maybe in the major leagues, it's like 5th, 6th, and 7th. Youth ball, obviously we get 4th and 5th maybe. But like those are the times where a ball game, I think a majority, I would probably call it 90% of ball games can be won or lost based on the decisions that we make. Maybe we let our starter go one more pitch and that ends up being a 3-run homer. We run it back, we bring in a bullpen guy, he gets the guy out, boom, we got a 3-1 lead, and we're feeling better about ourselves. So like there's so many of those little things that I think like they either win or lose ball games. And granted, I mean, like you can make, like you said, put the best lineup, make the best decision. according to what you guys think or what the numbers say, and it still doesn't work out, and that's called baseball.
Yeah, I like your even sometimes maybe in the fourth, fifth, and sixth, because sometimes that could be the third time through or the start of the third time through going through a lineup. And I think in St. Louis, you've seen that a lot with guys like Palante and Michaelis. You know, Michaelis is, I saw an interesting stat. This was before his last start. So he had like 14 starts that he gave up 3 or fewer runs, and had including 2 games that he had given up 0 runs, and the Cardinals lost. And you would like to think giving up 3 runs, you'd be okay to win a game.
Right.
And people are like, well, he's got a 5 ERA, which stats we could talk about. Is ERA even a stat that you really want to measure? Because you have a 5.14 or 5 whatever it is. If you pitch 5 innings and give up 3 runs, which isn't a bad start, you still have a 5 ERA.
Yeah.
You know, and so you talk about the one pitch, though. How many times in the fifth has he given up 5 runs because he just fell off the wagon? Because, you know, it doesn't have great stuff. And he's our number 2.
Yeah.
You know, which stinks. I get why fans are frustrated, but he's not that bad. You know, he's just not a number 2. And we have to, like, when do we start to accepting what these athletes really are, and just watching the game instead of just saying these guys are bad? Because I don't even think that some of these people posting could hold the jock straps of the 18-year-olds that I put on the field.
Right.
I really don't. Like, it truly bothers me. So I have to, like, I always start BFIB, best fans in baseball. And it's like, how did we get coined that with such derelicts that are out there making comments on 20-year-old people, really trying to be, you know, great? And I feel like it's the Gen X people, like the 40-something-year-old people. We're supposed to be this tough group or whatever it is. And here we are whining about 21-year-olds struggling in front of 40,000 people.
You learn the truest of people's values and how they are as people in the hardest times. And I think that, you know, that obviously is ringing true right now for Cardinals fans in St. Louis.
We'll be back. We'll be back. That's all I got to say. The Cardinals will be back. But it's a business, right? At the end of the day, this game is a business. You've experienced it personally. It's frustrating because, you know, they'll draft a guy and you had 2 great seasons, and they'll draft a guy in the second round and all of a sudden gets bumped.
Sit down is what they say.
Is that? Oh, dude, it's so brutal.
Watch out. This guy's ready. You're done.
And you still have to go through that process. I feel like that's happened when just kind of watching what you went through with Wade. I use that because you guys are local. I've met Wade. I've met you, Justin. You guys have all had to experience some highs and lows in professional sports. I mean, I think Justin was real close, and something
as
just
close as you can get.
happened.
He was knocking on the door.
Yeah, and it just baseball, right?
Yep.
And now the guy that kind of got drafted in front of him is now starting center fielder in the big leagues. And so it's this thing is a business that I think people, if they just spent a little bit more time understanding how, like, things like Rule 5s work, you know, I think that could change some of the tone of how we look at some of our players, because there's so much happening. JJ Weatherholt is obviously a stud right now in AAA. I'm like, why start his clock? I think the time's up now, but, you know, he's not on the 40-man. You had guys like Prito and Crooks that were due up for probably Rule 5 draft.
Yep.
And Crooks definitely would have been taken probably Rule 5.
Sure.
And, you know, it's like, well, why'd that guy get put on the 40-man when we got this, that, and the other? And it's like, know what's going on in professional sports outside of just some of the results, and maybe you'll understand why some of these moves are made. And that's where, like, some of the, like, maybe I should pump my brakes a little bit, because, you know, they're obviously probably much smarter than me in some other facets of life, but
and there's a lot of money.
I love baseball.
I mean, there's a lot of money going around, and I think even for me, like, that should be handled by guys that are way smarter than myself. But, you know, there's just it's more lucrative now, and there's more, you know, larger contracts, everything, than there ever has been. And so I think when you set a bunch of guys in a room that have to make decisions on players, and then those don't tend to work out, well, they're not always just going to say, okay, we'll we'll throw another 40 million at the wall and see if it sticks. Like they're pretty proud of themselves too, right? Like they're proud of their picks, and so they're not gonna. Those guys aren't just gonna, it's not just a one and done. See ya. Like we're gonna see if that money's gonna be able to be put out onto the field and make more money, and maybe exhaust those options. And I think you see that a lot too. It's like, they're, like I said, they're proud, men and women too in those positions. So
yeah, I am. I'm interested to see what Heimblum does. I hope for whatever purposes you guys are paying attention to Randy Flores, because I think he is one heck of a scouting I think he's the head of scouting now for the Cardinals. He is a gem, and I think he's going to be a great GM one day. I hope it's with the Birds, not somewhere else, because I think that we would miss the boat on Randy Flores. Anyways, I guess part 2 of the show. I just wanted to talk about it because it's been bothering me, and I feel like the Cardinals are closer than expected. I'm interested in to see if Heimblum just blows this thing up, and we see all of our left-handed bats go. I think a lot of what we've done, and I don't think the average fan even knows this, is how the front office kind of dismantled our minor league system.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think people understand how many guys that they fired or didn't bring in because they couldn't pay people or whatever the cases may have been. But they literally cut the minor league development side in half.
Yeah.
And I that's where I think fans could go, well, why did you do that? But there's not going to be an answer because, Mo keeps that stuff tight to the chest, which I guess we feel that we need that. But then all of a sudden we bring it back. You know what I mean? Because they realize they screwed that up, but you don't know why they did those things. And there's places that you can read that material, because you just see it. And be invested in your minor leagues, because there are some great players that absolutely should make it and never will see a big league field that are great humans that you would think would be a great baseball player one day. But anyways, we'll lead into data, because I think going from professional sports, knowing that we talked about analytics earlier, I know that one of the big things behind Shane and yourself kind of is bringing data into some of your instruction. How important do you think data is for today's high school level athletes?
Oh, I think it's a tool, right? I think it's something that we definitely need, and we, there's really good times for it, and I think also there's really good times to coach a baseball player, and like you hear about this all the time, and I'm sure Cardinal fans have been talking about this, like how many of our guys are good? These young guys are good baseball players, and how many of them can throw 94, 95 on the mound in January, but then we put them in a game in the springtime. And maybe this is even on the college level, like, or high school even, and they can't, it's more 90 now, and it's spray and it's a balk, right? And there's not much control of the game, or the hitters, they're swinging at everything as opposed to trying to hunt their pitch. So I think, like, especially in the wintertime, like, I think finding those data points and then giving them a goal or a baseline of, hey, this is where the player that you're searching to be, this is where they typically fall, and if you're there, great, let's maintain that, and if you're not, well, let's see what are some adjustments that we can make. But I think too, like, and especially at the big league level, maybe not so much high school, but like at the big league level, like knowing some of those numbers on VBA and attack angle and all that, like that can be crucial to one pitch in a game that you might get to hit, or one pitch that you need to throw to get an out. Like that may, the numbers that of course we still have to go execute it, but having that small advantage, like that may be huge. And I think we can use that in high school as well,
Yeah, I agree, because I think that we have a lot of information that's given to us, but we actually don't talk to our young people about really kind of like the law of averages. I like to use the term law of averages, because I say to myself, if I get my pitch to hit, I can't miss it. Right? So that might be the only one I'm going to get that's actually my favorite, the best pitch I can hit. It's got to be a double off the wall or better. I don't say it's got to be, but that's the kind of barrel I'm putting on it.
Yeah.
I can't stand it when a kid takes a pitch and it's his pitch to hit and he just shakes his head and like looks up at the sky like somebody's going to help him. I'm like, no. What are you actually doing? And I sometimes feel like that's some of the data that leaks from the big leagues. Like when you go in there and you have a guy that throws, let's say 80% sinkers, but he throws a four seam, 2 pitches in a row that are, belt high that you should smash. You're only looking for the sinker, and then all of a sudden now you're 0-2 and it's like, well, can you hunt a location and hit any pitch in that location? I know sinkers move out of that. I know curveballs move out of that. But the big thing is, where's the ball going to end up?
Right.
That's the thing that you're hoping to learn from your first at bats. That's why a lot of people ask, take the first pitch or, take till you get a strike, is trying to see movement and things like that happen, which I think, having data on pitch information, pitch movements and things like that, I think is fun. But in high school, I'm like, what's your favorite pitch to hit? And kids don't have answers.
Right.
I'm like, you cannot hit in one pitch. You can't look up and, hit the pitch down. You have 2 different mechanics to hit that baseball.
Right.
And kids don't understand it. They swing at anything that's in the strike zone. It's like, I can't hit the outside pitch the same way I can hit the inside pitch. So why would I even tunnel that ball outside?
Right.
And I think that they're just so driven by, well, how hard can I hit the ball off the tee, front toss, yada, yada, yada. Well, the trick is just hit the ball straight into the dirt.
Yeah.
It's going to read much faster than trying to hit a gap shot double for whatever reason. I don't know if it's the way the radars read. I'm sure that's part of it. But to me, like, when you go through your data with these athletes, do you spend more time actually trying to build the mental side than off of the data? Or is it like, hey, do you remember when you saw this on your information and this is why? Like, what is the main goal for you after you get done with your data with your athletes?
I think for us, we me and our coaches, I think we strive to take the data and then put it into like an approach or a plan. Like use it, of course, and especially when it comes to like swing data, like bat speed or impact speed or hand speed, all that stuff. I think we take that information and sometimes like we won't even give it to the athlete really, like outside of like hit tracks numbers, which I think that's more of a for the older guys, they use it in really well. I think the younger guys, it's more of an entertainment thing. It is what it is. They like to see the ball go. I understand that. Like it makes it fun. It's not, the high school guys are very intentional with when they're looking back, or at least I make them. Like I'm like, hey, like we don't need to look back at a ground ball that hit 3 feet in front of home plate to see how hard it was, right? Like that was a bad swing and we missed that ball. That's okay. But like I think we take that data. And like I said, most of the time, don't let them see it. And we as coaches put it together in some sort of game plan that allows them to be able to implement it. And I think that's like one of the true tests of a good coach. Like, can you take all these numbers now and put it into a plan that they can then go off and execute in 15, 16, 17, 18-year-old minds, not older coaches or even, really smart baseball analytic guys. Like, you could sit a high schooler down with a baseball analytic guy from MLB, and they're going to talk, and I can guarantee you that high schooler is going to probably have a very low chance of understanding what the heck that guy's saying.
I
outside
might.
of
I might too.
I think a lot of us would. All these numbers and abbreviations, and I think that's why there's that coach to try to implement that for that player. And then that's the other challenge. Like some of these guys. A majority of these guys don't learn the same way or don't retain information the same way or already know this, so they need something more advanced or, hey, we really need to bring it down for, Sam, like he needs it very simple and bullet point, like step 1, 2, 3, 4. And that's okay too, right? It's just finding that.
That's smart kids.
Right.
The overthinkers.
That exactly.
I coached at WashU and that was one of our biggest things was, when I coached my daughter, I could tell her what to do and she could do it. I could show her, she could do it. When I got to WashU, I had to give the why.
Yeah.
I had to give the whys and all the different things that I was not ready for when I got there at WashU. And do you do this with all your athletes? Like no matter, because you can't get this done in a half hour. So I'm assuming your sessions are an hour or longer, group training, things like that. to maximize these kids' potential. Do you find like I have like the AA caliber athlete where sometimes getting into too much information really makes them struggle because of some of the thinking and just how they go about their business. So instead of trying to teach like a mechanic or why they're doing something based on data, I'm like, pull side, it's always in the air, middle of the field, it's head high, pitcher height, ground ball right side. That's literally what I'm trying to aim at every swing I take. So if it's in, or if I'm going to pull any baseball, it needs to be in the air. I don't care if you're way out in front of it, just pull it in the air. Because there's something that has to happen to do that naturally.
Right.
So some kids, when they do that, they just see that and all of a sudden their numbers jump. And it's like, well, can I get into the data conversations again? And as soon as I do that, they take things so literal. And it's part of knowing your athletes. So I like that you said that you don't give all of the information, because some of these kids are not strong. And so does things like hand speed truly matter, or, does that stuff matter? Like when you're dealing with an underdeveloped kid?
Well, no, right? Like some of it, and I think that's the reason why sometimes we just withhold it, because it's like, why would we push more onto them than what they actually need, right? Like that's something that as they grow and get stronger and get into the weight room, like that stuff will start to hopefully take care of itself. And then if we find that it's causing a deficiency like in their swing, or like causing them not able to make a move, well then maybe that's when like we're like, okay, like, hey, we need to do some grip strength stuff, or like we're right now this week we're going to test everyone's grip strength, and then we're going to kind of give them like a 6-week grip strength kind of smaller workout, like nothing too crazy, just like, hey, four times a week, 3 to 4 times a week, and then we're going to retest in 2 to 3 months. Like I think that there's some hidden things that go into like wrists and forearms and hands when it comes into hitting, and so like we want to see like what's going to happen when we let's see where you're at, and then kind of put that based on your age level and number, history of grip strength, and then let's see where you're at in 2 months, and let's see how that equivalates to, it sometimes doesn't have to always be like swing data, like it can be, movement stuff, right? Like that's also good data for us to look at, and allows us to, put a story behind what's going on. I think a lot of these guys do well when it's put in, like I always say, like story form, or like, they understand in their terms what this means. And
yeah. I like that kind of thought process, because data is not just swing analytics or pitch analytics. We do need to know. We know now, like certain things like weight to height ratios, your jump height, your verticals, your broad jump. We know the things that are starting to lack in your IR, ER stuff. So some of this is measurables that we do for your body. Yeah. And I think the term now everybody's using is the motor preference stuff. I always told my athletes, I said, if you want to throw gas, you have to have a big O, because you have to, if you want to throw hard, you have to have big legs, right? And like my hitters, you're like, coach, I can't get the ball over the fence. I'm like, I'm hitting it 300, but I can't get it 315. I'm like, look at your forearms.
Yep.
I go, it looks like I got a catfish in my forearm belly. You know what I mean? And so I try to make jokes like that, but they're like, well, what do I do to get my forearm strong? And for me, I was like, well, wait a minute. I'm neglecting some of the things that we're supposed to be doing. You can be small. Yep. You just have to be strong.
Right.
You could be big. You just have to be mobile. And all of it is still strength.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yep.
But you're not going to see a guy with real skinny arms or skinny forearms be able to hit balls off the wall.
There's a reason why Mark McGwire looked the way he did and hit the balls that he did. I mean, I don't know. I'm not here to argue if it was real, fake, or indifferent, but there's a reason why he looked the way he did and the balls went the way they did.
I watched professional wrestling, buddy. So steroids are fine with me. You can take them all you want. I still think guys like Barry Bonds. And I will say, though, because I think it's entertainment, professional sports is, those guys took risk. Right. You can say what you want as far as like, was it right for our youth? And Charles Barkley, I'm no role model kind of thing. Your parents should be your role model or somebody else. But for me, it was, I wanted to hit the ball as hard as I could. Yep. I never cared about balls and strikes. I never cared about my batting average. No, I didn't want to hit 220. It was awesome to hit. I hit 490 my senior year. That was awesome. I've never hit like that again. Yeah. Because the game is just extremely hard, and you see that in everything we do.
Right.
Like Jaden Daniels for the Washington what are they called?
Commanders.
Commanders. I almost said it. Redskins. I'm gonna say it anyways, but because they're still the Redskins to me, just like they are the Indians in Cleveland. But how do you have a second year? You know what I mean? And so, like, for me, it's just like this is what I love about Barry Bonds. If I can catch the baseball, I can hit the baseball, which I love that piece. And he goes, I had to beat one guy. If I could beat the pitcher, I was okay with my at bat.
Yeah.
And you don't have an idea what the 8 guys in front of you are going to do. You can come back or a pitcher snaps you off, or
Right.
hard line drive, and some of them go over the base, over the wall. Barry was a special player, but I mean, look at it. Look at how strong he was, even when he was in Pittsburgh. You look at guys like Ken Griffey Jr., Ichiro. Why didn't Ichiro hit with all the hits that he had in the big leagues? Why didn't he hit more home runs? He just wasn't the same guy.
Wasn't his type. Yeah, I mean, wasn't his game.
I just I think players need to accept who they are. And I do think data is important for those things, because if I got a kid that can't move, I'm not going to ask him I might have him be thinking more direct and more rotational.
Right.
Just because he can't move a particular way in his hips or something of that nature. Even throwing, we might change mechanics because he can't get his arm up here because he has no shoulder mobility. Or we're going to take time off and build his shoulder mobility, because this is what the information gives you in these things that we have right here in our phones and the data that gives us. So do you have like a favorite piece of equipment, or this could be everything from machines to data-driven stuff, or apps that you like that might be able to help a young player get to that next step, whether it's a senior varsity kind of kid? Is there something that you like more than to use the most?
Yeah, I think on the catching side, it's actually pretty simple. It's a video delay app that we set up on the iPad right in front of the catcher, especially when we're doing receiving or blocking. And we usually set it like 5 seconds delayed, so that every time that they're going to make that catch, they're also watching it right again. And I think that that's made a huge impact for some of these guys, because it's not enough for me just to say, hey, your glove came up early. Hey, you pushed out first. Or you made a horizontal move before you went vertically, right? Like, they can hear me say that, but until they see it, like, I think the video is the truth, right? And it shows you exactly what's going on. So yeah, that one's simple.
It's simple, but I think you could have stopped. I want to stop you right there, because now I'm intrigued, because I've never even thought about doing something like this. Because you get down and the first thing you do is you go do it, and it's like you can do it every single time, because that's why you're in the position you're in. But the athlete, it might take several times, but then to be able to see after they do something and you talk about it and they could see it, that's like 2 reps in 1.
For sure.
Or 3 if you got communication going behind it. I think that's genius. Was that something that you learned recently, or like going through
that would have been
baseball?
a pro ball thing. It was always set up in the cage for us. A little Latin coach, Fernando Diaz, I still remember him. He loved it, and so like with just a little mini tripod, set it up, and boom, like you were able to sit there and basically watch. It's like 1 physical rep, 1 mental rep, 1 physical rep, 1 mental rep, and I think it really shoots the gap down in getting to the spot where you want to be.
Yeah, it's a lot. Like, you're almost literally doubling information and without being too much information. That's a great piece of data.
And too, like, you're in a group setting, which is what we only do now here in St. Louis. Like, it's only group stuff.
Please
obviously,
tell everybody how important group settings are.
It's with skill level, and like I'll get back to this in a second. But like, now the 3 guys that are waiting, or the 2 guys that are waiting, are watching that rep as well. And so like, now they're learning on 3 other catchers and not just themselves. And like, I was gonna say this earlier, but like, the one-on-one time for us comes every other day that you're not with us. So every day that you're not with us in person, well, that's your one-on-one coaching. So now you're getting 5 days. If you're a driven, dedicated, you're holding yourself accountable, you're communicating with us in the app, like, now you're getting one-on-one coaching pretty much whenever you want, as opposed to an hour or 30 minutes that you see us in person. And I think that kind of probably would hit on what you talk about too. But it's like, I don't think people quite understand that. Like, they think the one-on-one time has to only be the hour that I see you in person. It's like, well, why? Like, that we're in 2025. There's plenty of technology here that we can help you when you're not here, and more frequently. You know, like, I don't know what player that isn't driven or that wants to make it to the next level. Like, I don't know what player wouldn't want that. I didn't have that even, 10 years ago when we were growing up taking.
Yeah, you played outside though.
It's true. That's
More
true.
often.
I know you talk about this a lot. Yeah, a lot
Well,
of wiffle ball, a lot of, just outside.
It's reps, right? And the reps don't always have to be baseball related to get better. I try to express that to people because I got caught in saying back in my day to 15-year-old kids who gave a rat's behind about what I did back in my day. But now I've actually thought about back in my day, and I was like, I'm literally shooting hoops. I'm literally throwing footballs, hockey sticks, or, shooting hockey pucks on the streets. I'm doing all these things that help me become a better baseball player because I think for the most part, almost every other sport can help you be a better baseball player. I don't know, other than maybe reading fly balls makes you a better wide receiver. I don't know that baseball makes you a better basketball player. I don't know that it translates. I'm sure there's some arguments. You can find small pieces, but for me, do something every day. Watch the game, play outside with your friends. And so that's where I felt like I developed was if I wanted to be picked somewhere in the top 3 picks and not last all the time, I had to find a way to jump higher. Yeah. I had to find a way to hit a tennis racket if we was playing doubles. I had to do everything necessary in order for me to be a part of playing. I was an only child. Yeah. So, I didn't have anybody else to compete with in my house. I had to compete with everybody else. And so, for me, it's like back in my day, I literally threw a wiffle ball. Nobody knows how to throw a slider. Nobody knows how to throw a rise ball. Nobody knows how to throw a drop ball. Nobody knows how to throw a sinker. Can you imagine if we threw a wiffle ball and threw a sinker, how maybe that could translate into throwing one off with a baseball? Yep. Because all you have to do is manipulate it.
We'll learn how to hit it. Well, sometimes these guys' balls are moving like wiffle balls nowadays.
Yeah, well, I mean, what do you have to do in wiffle ball? You can't have no big leg kick in wiffle ball. You'll never be on time.
Right.
You'll never be in a position. You have to have almost a 2-strike approach. And sometimes you can still catch a barrel.
Yeah.
Right. And you win a ball game 2-1 or whatever. But I use that just because of what you said. Like, kids don't do enough. So if you're going 1 time a week, you're not getting better, don't blame your hitting coach.
Right.
Stop blaming people for your kid not getting good when you don't even go outside and play catch with them. You don't force them to go outside and play catch with your neighbor. You want a kid to be a better pitcher? Have them play catch with purpose. We don't do that enough.
Right.
I don't know where that came from. I don't know if it's because there's houses everywhere and we've taken up space, but there's parks. Well, some of the parks don't even let you get on there, so that may be unfair. But every one of these, like my location, all my athletes have memberships. Mm-hmm. Why aren't you there every day?
Right.
If you truly want to get better, and I want you to continue with, because you really, to be honest with you could have sold me on the video delay. Can you do that hitting?
Yeah.
Is it through a screen though? Obviously you don't want to blast your iPad, but do you just kind of offset it, or is it like even?
So for the iPad, we'll just go like open hitter view or behind.
I got you.
And then we'll just let it go after like that. Yeah. And then we're really what we'll do is AirPlay it to the TV so that then it's on the big screen and you can see it. The iPad doesn't have to really be in danger.
Do you have that for Android?
You could run a cord.
I got an iPad because I know that some of the devices we have only go Apple. I guess it's much easier to build an app for Apple than it is for Android. I love my Android. I don't know if that's because of my age or not. iPhones, iPads, I struggle. I give it to my kids all the time. I'm like, how do you get out of this position? Right. How do you go back? But give me one more piece of equipment that you like to use. I know that you use a pitching machine a lot with your catchers.
Yeah.
I see you working real hard, so I know your hack attack is a big piece of your plans. But is there something out there that, man, I really, to be honest with you, the video delay thing has got me.
It's pretty cool,
dude. I'm turning right now.
It's it can be used a crazy different amount of ways. You can use it on the infield, you can use it on the outfield, you can use it on the mound. Like there's, as long as you pretty much have the medium or the device, you can get it done. And I think the guys like it too. Like it really hits home when you're looking right at it right after, with how quick it is, right? It's like rep and then boom, here it comes delayed on in front of me.
That's awesome.
I think, like other than that, like you said, the hack attack, man, I'm thankful for her. She is ran every single day, nonstop, 24/7. I do like blast motion, kind of blast motion with hit tracks. We use hit tracks every day. We have it. Obviously, we're going to use it. I think that I think I like to, like, one of the main points I really like to hit tracks for is, like, I will point out when a kid hits a ball at 94, but it goes one hops the back net as opposed to the 94 that is going up back through the net. And I'm like, hey, like, those are same ball, right? Like, same exit velo. It's going to count the same when you look at exit velo velocity numbers. But what ball do we want? Like, what's the ball flight that we're looking for? It's not always about the exit velocity. What about the ball flight, right? Because that's what translates into the game. The ball that immediately smokes the ground 3 feet in front of home plate, but it's still hit at 95, like, great, but that's not what we're trying to do, right? So yeah, but like as soon as they get in, it's always like head back, look at it, and I'm like, sometimes I'm like, stop looking back, like look forward. You don't need to see what that ground ball looked like or that pop out to the foul, into the stands, right? Like, just know you just missed it, and it was you swung at a ball, right? It wasn't your swing, you swung at a ball or something like that. So I think hit tracks, honestly, from a just every single day, it's on, it's there. We use it, but also we don't obsess over it. And like,
It's fair.
I'm a big hit tracks game guy. I love to go through like our 45, 50 minutes of work and then let them duke it out 2-on-2. I think that's my way of trying to like include the baseball player aspect of training. Like, hey, there's a runner on second. There's a runner on second, 2 outs. You need to drive this run in, right? Like they're not thinking about 45-degree swings or step back swings. They're thinking about, okay, how the heck do I get my barrel from here to in front of my eyes to where I need to hit the ball and drive this runner in. So I think that's where we kind of cheat a little bit and try to get some of like the game-like approach stuff. Like we don't really coach the swing when we do that. We just coach like mental approach and what pitch you're hunting here. And like, because I mean, it's true baseball. I mean, you're in the box, you have runners on, you have counts, you have a strike zone. Like it's everything about what baseball is. So
yeah, it's easy to recreate thoughts in the cages, but when you can also add visuals, like you did, this is why I like the video delay thing. It's a visual learning opportunity, so you can see hitting backside ground ball runner at second base, 2 strikes on you. You can see that happening because sometimes in a cage, when you're in a tunnel, you're not exactly sure where it's always hit. People think it's hit up the middle, but really because of the way you're standing, it's more actually towards second base side,
right?
Ground ball there or whatever the case may be. And I'm with you with things like hit tracks, Rapsodo, stuff like that. Like for me, I'm like, why are we looking at them? And then sometimes when you ask them not to look at it, they'll look at you and go, was that better? And I'm like, what did you feel? Oh, nothing. Right. And it's like, well, then it was better. You caught a barrel. Like it doesn't really matter if you hit it a little deeper and it was a ground ball or it's a line drive. At some point it's all going to play. Yeah. And I literally tell my kids all the time, I don't care what you do, barrel the baseball. I do tell them, if we're in the cage, I want things to happen a particular way. I do want the ball top corner if we pull side, in a 10 feet in the air, off the top of the screen, middle, ground balls, right side. I don't actually want all of that to happen, except for pull side. Right. There's no glory in going the opposite field. Pulling the baseball brings fans to the stands, or at least get you paid, right?
That's what they say, right?
DHs are the highest paid player now, and I think the big leagues, really? Are average salary or something like that. I think it's the average DH salary, not the highest paid. I think it's the average DH gets paid the most, because you can have a $30 million starting pitcher, but you have a $500,000, well, whatever league minimum is. You have a lot of those.
There's a lot of homers in that DH spot, and those are what get paid nowadays.
Yeah, I think that's kind of what leads us to, the slug baby slug stuff. And it's not what we do here in St. Louis, clearly, not anymore. But they started the season that I think Wilson Contreras has 20. And I can remember the years we had 3 or 4 guys hitting 30,
35 plus, yeah.
And then or 4 or 5 guys hitting 20, having 100 homers between 4 or 5 guys, but the game is always evolving and changing. I love that. I love being a part of it. I just wanted to open with that because I just felt like sometimes we have a misconception of what I think professional sports are, and you played it. I am into the grade school, middle school side, and I feel like those are the parents that are always complaining that at 10 years old, your coach doesn't know what you're talking about. No, you probably don't. Right. So pump the brakes just a hair on folks and let things play out. Because I do think this is a long process, because I'm not going to say it that way, but athletes can get better in one-on-one sessions. It's going to take a heck of a lot longer. If you're going in for a 30-minute hitting session, it's probably not a great experience long-term. Because you cannot do anything in 30 minutes. You can't even warm up properly. You can't build your wrist things like you want if you needed to spend 20 minutes building mobility because your athlete's not moving certain ways. We do need to change our mindset on thinking that that's the way St. Louis baseball needs to be played or coached, as far as instruction. Start opening your mind up to the groups, and especially some of the older coaches who are still, you have to do one-on-ones. No, there's a time and place for one-on-ones. You go to a group session with you on Tuesdays and Thursdays, but on Friday they want to hire you to do a one-on-one session with you. You can get a lot done in that 30 minutes because you're building up everything through the week, and you already have your 30 minutes, right?
Yep. Yeah.
I mean, do you really want to invest? Because I think the biggest return on investment is the time you spend with guys like yourself.
Yeah.
In my opinion.
Well, and I have always told parents too, like, and especially we made this change from last offseason to this offseason. Like we said, kind of what you said, like if you truly need a one-on-one, it's available, but it's going to be at a premium, and there's not many of those slots available just because we've now doubled every single guy that trains with us time just by this one shift. So like instead of 2 hours a month, now we're seeing them 4 hours minimum, right? Anywhere probably really from like 6 to 8 hours. And, now we're coaching them 5 to 6 days a week instead of 1 day a week, right? Like, I think this is where you truly start to see like who's bought in, who's dedicated, who wants to be at the next level, and maybe who doesn't, which is okay. But let's find something like a 30-minute one-on-one with a younger college guy, or, even a younger guy that, that's just what he likes. He likes to work with those kind of guys, and that's okay. Like there's a place for that. But at the same time, I think you're going to see, over the next 5 to 10 years, more of the high level training is going to be in the group setting. Like there's never one time in Atlanta where I went to go hit in the cage early and it was with me and the hitting coach. Like it was always like, hey, 2 to 3 guys are going to be there. The 2 to 3 guys, you guys are going to talk first. You guys are going to look at the game plan first, right? Like maybe a one-off hitting every once in a while when like things were, really bad. Like, hey, coach, can I see you for 20 minutes here? But like until you get to the big leagues, I don't think I think those are the guys that get to request the one-on-one time for however long they want. Like it, and that's what I've seen. Like that's college. That's in college ball. You only get you have 8-hour weeks to start the season. Like right now, a lot of these college, we were just down at SEMO, like they're in 8-hour weeks. 4 of those automatically go to weightlifting. So now you have 4 hours left per player to work with them. Well, you don't have enough time in the day to spend 1 hour by yourself with each player. Like it's groups of 4 for 4 hours, Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, Friday. There's your 4 hours of baseball. So like it almost just comes down to more of like a practical thing. And on top of all the benefits that can come with, accountability, competition, Johnny being in a group with another guy who's better than him, like that's okay. We need that. We should crave that for our athletes.
Crave it.
Like
I love that. I love it. You should crave it.
There's something special that happens when guys are put in uncomfortable situations. We can't always be comfortable in our training. We shouldn't be,
I think that's an entire different conversation that we need to have on kind of the expectations on next level, because next level doesn't necessarily mean college or professionally. It means going from freshman to JV, JV to varsity, or being a varsity catcher, or varsity bench player to a varsity starter, being an 8th grade guy. Like next level is literally that. You go from grade school to middle school to high school and beyond. If you take that approach of next levels, what is next level? Can you run a 60 under 8 seconds and you're 14 years old? Nope. Well, how do we get into 7.5s? Because we know that is a big number. Right. We have, need to burn 5/10 over the next how many ever weeks, months that we need to do. And so next level is not always professionally. So in my opinion, I don't think you were saying that, but that's how I feel. So I want to, we're going to bring you back on. It's going to happen again. I would like to talk about the kind of the high school experience you had at Vianney, your college experience, because in how it melded into the pros, because you just said group stuff, right? And like how important it was and necessary to be prepared for that, because you're right. You have no time. because you have limits to everything that we do. I was at a D3 school, and so you want to talk about limits, man, the structure was insane. We only had like 15 hours a week that we could have our athletes not in a, so we had we had our 15 dates that we could practice with our athletes. We could practice all day, but we had only 15 dates, which one of them had to be playing dates, you know, and so you could only play 6 hours. It's so weird. And people just kind of don't understand that. So I'd like to bring that up with you next time. I'm going to bring you back on. We'll schedule that after we're done. But what is something that you could tell your catchers out there, or hitters? What's some advice that you could give them? And let us know how we can find you on your social medias.
Yeah, I think my advice that I was going to give, it kind of backs off what you were just talking about. A Division I coach who I'm super close with, we were just talking last week, and he said something that like kind of stuck with me. He said, if you are not let's say a senior in high school getting ready to, you want to go play Division I baseball, if you are not prepared to play that next spring, then Division I baseball is probably the worst thing for you. And the reason, like his reasoning behind that is like, there's an hour limit. You don't get to practice as much. They're trying to identify guys that can make an impact in the spring, not guys that, might get a little bit better in the fall and maybe compete for a spot. Like there's that time's not there, right? So like if you're a guy that's like kind of on the fringe and you don't like, you want to go D1, but like, there's not a lot of talk. There's, you haven't been scouted, or you're not having, haven't had calls with recruiters and stuff like that. Like, it's okay. And Division I may really not even be the best. Like go to a JUCO, go practice for 4 or 5 hours a day, like go take advantage of those opportunities, because nowadays more than ever, like especially Division I coaches, they need guys to come in and play, like come in and make an impact. There's no, it's not, there's just not enough time to take a guy who kind of was maybe a fringe guy, but we took him out of D1. Like those guys aren't going anymore really because of how, guys are older now, they're saturated, they're bigger humans, right? So like guys that are coming in, they are ready to go, which I just think is kind of interesting.
I'm stealing that because that is something that I don't even think, even in my experience of getting players to the next level, I've never really thought, especially now with transfer portal stuff like that that's going on, I never really thought about that piece on the time that you actually do not have.
Right. And
people, want to be D1, and I'm like, I try to steer everybody junior college.
Yeah.
One, you could play right away. Most of the time you don't even play as freshmen, sophomores. And I love that message because it really is true. You don't have time. You have to do a lot on your own. So if you're not prepared for that, which goes back into our group stuff that we talked about, and getting more for even, you're getting more value for almost less dollar because you're able to save a little bit here and there because of the settings. How can we follow you?
It's Keck Academy on Instagram. AK12 Sports Group.com is the website, just has training information. And then that's kind of where we're at. Twitter, we're on there. I'm not super active on Twitter. I wish I was better.
There's no Twitter. That's why you're not active.
Oh, sorry, X. That's right.
Sorry, they give me heat all the time. I'm not on X either.
But yeah, Instagram, we put up a lot of content. I have guys in the cage all the time, like trying to film and show what it's like to be in the cage with us. And we try to stay pretty active.
We're bringing Andrew in on December 13th. He'll be part of the Full Send hitting camp that we're going to do with Josh Cathcart and Shane Eames and myself. YBM will be there. It's going to be a great time, great event. We'll even have some things afterwards that we're working with Prime Sports. But anyways, for all you people out there watching, make sure that you hit the dinger up top. You got to subscribe so you can get information like this. You can make sure you go follow him. That is key, that you go follow everybody on their socials. Youth Baseball Midwest, Red Earth Productions, Game 7, Prime Sports, and Andrew. You're going to find a lot of good material on there. He does some great videos, by the way, that are really engaging without any words. I get locked in. Maybe because I know him, I'm invested into him. But anyways, for all you hitters out there, swing hard, Casey, hit it.